Hey, I'm Dr. Jerika Dodd, executive editor of PharmaSis Magazine. And you know what brings me so much joy is I get to meet some of the most amazing women in pharmacy. And I have this little saying that amazing recognizes amazing. So I love connecting with the women that come to ask about the magazine, to inquire, who are featured, who are contributing authors, who place ads. And then I'm amazed at the women in pharmacy and the few good men who are our readers. I am so honored to bring PharmaSis Magazine not only to our profession, but to the world, because I really do believe that everyone needs a pharmacist for one reason or another in their health journey. And I also believe that you would be amazed at what a woman in pharmacy can create. So, with that, I want to go ahead and introduce my special guest today, Dr. Wallene Bullard-Battle. And Dr. Wallene is here with us. Is being featured in the upcoming fall 2022 anniversary edition, third anniversary edition of PharmaSis Magazine. So welcome, Dr. Wallene.
Thank you, Jerika. I so appreciate this opportunity to meet with you and talk live about this opportunity. And congratulations, 3 years on the magazine. That's amazing.
Thank
What
you.
you brought to us.
I tell you, Dr. Wallene, 3 years ago, I never saw that I would be sitting here talking to you, one of over 60 women that have been featured in these 3 years. I never imagined it. I literally was in a park in Portland, Oregon, and I was like, I think I want to have a magazine. And then I just started asking, who can help me? Do you know anybody who can help me put together a magazine, publish a magazine? Because I have no idea. And there we go. And here we are. So
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. And I don't take it lightly. Every woman that I get to talk to who even expressed interest in the magazine. And I really don't take it lightly. Every woman who says, yes, I want to be in the magazine. I want to be a part of that. And because people got to check you out. They got to get you. They got to say, well, what is it that I'm connecting my name to? Because what we don't think about sometimes is we connected our names together.
Yes,
absolutely. And we were like, okay, I don't mind being connected to her. And you said you didn't mind being connected to me. And like that, I don't take lightly, because you got to watch who you connect your names with.
That could be a whole nother conversation, right?
Right. So, and I've sent you probably, I was telling you before we went live, I was like, Dr. Wallene, to date, from what I can remember, your post, the post where I'm like, dun, 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 here's Dr. Wallene, that post has been shared more than any other woman that has been featured in this magazine. Now, obviously, I don't have an official count or anything like that, but I watch the health of each of the posts that we put out to see, if they're getting the exposure, if they are, ticking the algorithm to show to more people. So I watch them, and I have seen your posts be shared by so many people. Wow. And I want to ask you, did you know that you had this kind of fan club?
No idea, none. But I'm thankful. We're gonna have to launch off from here and really do some big and better things together, because but it's a blessing. It's an honor for it to be able to do that, to be able to feed that, and just thinking, like, in my mind, I'm like, if I can do that, who's next? Like, right. It's not even about just me, but it's really like I'm just like you, where I want to make sure we really expose who we are as a profession and as women, because I don't think in the healthcare we get that enough to understand really how powerful roles and just the good things we do. So I'm excited, and I'm excited for those who are coming after me too.
Also, this has been, watching you in this short little term that we've been together for the magazine, I probably have left you more voice messages than I have left anybody else.
I'm sure.
Because when I read your story, I knew your story, but then when I got ready to do your post to say, da, 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 here's Wallene, I went back and I read it again. And I literally, I sat for a second and I was like, this is powerful. And so I just commended you. I remember sending you a message commending
Right.
you on your vulnerability, on being willing to share the good, the bad, some ugly, because
Yeah.
we like to keep the ugly kind of pushed under the rug, and we like to say, "Well, let me tell you all the good things," and then it paints this picture that's not accurate, that's not us, that's not really representative. Sometimes I say that sometimes pharmacists, we like to tell our pharmacy story. Well,
Yeah.
I went to school here and then I graduated and then I got my first job. That's not your story. That just happens to be some events that happen along the way. But your story was the epitome of sitting down and saying, you know what, let me just let you know who I am. Talk to me what that experience was like, writing to share it with who knows who will see it.
Well, I have to give you some of that credit because you held me to the fire. And we know, like you said, all the messages, 'cause I was like, I'll start off with my pharmacy story. Then you're like, no. And even though I didn't write it, it took when I finally was like, oh my God, and in this period of time in my life, there was a time where I was going through burnout too. And I was like, I can't do all of this. And it was like, no, sit. And as I sat, it came and it developed as you go over time and you really want to share what's the real, what's you. And it just kept building from there that in the end, the story and the title really came through. And I agree with you. So many times we do want to share how great we are. And we are. But then what were those hiccups that you never even thought about till you sat down to be like, you know what, all these things happen, we've overcome. But as being a woman, being a professional, a working mother, juggling ideas and programs and activities, on the outside, it's all the cute and fashionable and the makeup and the dress up. But okay, what just happened behind the scenes? And
Right.
really wanting to share, as you asked, let's share behind the scenes. And get to some of that nitty gritty. Be like, you know what? If I've done it, you can too. There's going to be
Yeah.
some ups and downs, but it's worth it.
I even, as I read your story and then reread your story, I realized how many parts of our stories are similar. And that's the beautiful part about sharing your story, is that it allows people to share their story too and go, oh, you too. Oh, well, and then I've been in places where I've been asked to speak, and I always share my story. And so sometimes when I'm teaching people about story, they're like, well, which story do I tell? I'm like, you only have one. You're one person, you have one story. And so it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, whether I'm talking to women in pharmacy, whether I'm talking to my coaching clients, whether I'm talking to, the men that are retired at the Kiwanis Club meeting. Like, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I'm going to share my story, that which I share wherever I go. And so I think it's a lot easier that way, because then I don't have to try to keep it straight. What version I told you, what version I told you. So kudos to you again. And I'm going to keep the listeners in a little bit of suspense, that they want to maybe to check in and read your story and read your post. As much as I've talked about it in these few moments we've been live almost 9 minutes, and I've been talking about your story. So let me ask you, because one of the things the neat things that I've also learned about you is your heart for service. And so I think it was right before we were starting this whole magazine journey, you took a missions trip. So tell us a little bit more about that and your work with medical missions.
Oh, wow. So there are several, but I think we were first talking over the summer. There is a trip that I've been doing for almost 15 years down into the Virgin Islands. And it started with one of my pharmacy mentors, I have to say, Laura Coleman, who, and now what we do is go down with the organization Healthy Encores, and we take medical, pharmacy, nursing, and we do community health fair to the community down there. So that has been, and I'm the pharmacist lead for that, and that has been growing and building to where we're extending that to build out to having the students, pharmacy, medical, nursing students who are volunteers that either from the islands or nearby. We do, and we're branching that out to even more international opportunities. We may be, looks like next year, expanding to some of the other Caribbean islands to do the same. So so I'll put that out there for the future, that there'll be, we're always looking for volunteers. I need my pharmacists and others who, wanted to give back and come along. And we do it in a way that I just shared this quickly, that's a little bit different. Most of us have done healthcare fairs in the US. Right. And anywhere, just in general. But the thing I think that I don't see at most health fairs that have been added is review of your meds and talk to your physician. Like, do you talk to a health professional at the end? You do all those general screenings, your blood pressure and finger sticks and glucose and all of that, and maybe some of the others, eyes and things. But then you don't usually you just get that number and you walk away. Right. What we do uniquely is at the end, you get to meet with the pharmacist to go over your meds and any of your scores, or with a physician that kind of says, what does these look like? We call it your passport to health. And we just know your numbers. So now you see them and we can actually tell you, like, if that's normal, abnormal, what can do. And I think that's where I'm like, that's why I need my pharmacist to come along. Because in the end, we want everyone to be able to have that conversation. Like you said, everyone should know a pharmacist. So. Well,
and I think that we sometimes take our healthcare for granted, or our access to healthcare for granted here in the United States. Yeah. And so to be able to go and to provide service, but then that critical point that you said at the end, to be able to sit down and have a conversation, because to be a patient and just kind of go through the motions and get all the numbers and you don't know what that means and nothing changes in your life as a result, that's no good. So I love to hear that you're like, we're at the end and we are waiting to discuss it with you. Yeah. And a physician is waiting to discuss it with you. I think that's priceless, because it helps people. One, I think sometimes as health professionals, we assume that people operate with the same level of knowledge that we have. And that is not true. And so I commend your organization that you're helping people understand, because that's like that education piece is so critical.
Yeah. And that's a part of me and another pharmacy girlfriend. We started with my medication information means empowerment as a boutique, but that's a big part. I'm big on health advocacy, being your own health advocate. And I know you know that term well, but it's like, even in New York, we don't know enough. And I know it's not our goal, but I'm really big on understanding that. But this interest for being into the community has gone from just a health fair that over the years I've been able to do medical missions in Nigeria. I've been able to be a visiting professor teaching pharmacy in Ethiopia. So just knowing that this career in pharmacy goes beyond just what we do day to day, but it really is a part of who I've become as far as who we are to our community, because our diaspora and internally needs us.
Right. Absolutely.
They don't see enough of us.
And, I know that there is more than enough to go around, and more. So if you have information, I know you sent me something recently to share in my Women in Pharmacy What's Next group, and I did get that shared. But if you have, when you have a need for pharmacists or, pharmacy professionals, your next go round for the medical missions, you might have to give like a couple months heads up. Yeah. But definitely don't hesitate to pass that information along, because a lot of people just may not know and may be like, I would be interested. And I think that it is also helpful to go see how other people in other places in the world live. I think it gives perspective, and it shows you that there is more to our little corner and our little backyard.
It does. And I will share that. Like, I was surprised, thinking like, oh, there's infrastructure in some places that I wouldn't have thought there was, healthcare infrastructure, formulary. I'm like, oh, the hospital has a formulary, and nothing against all my colleagues in Nigeria, but they do. And there's opportunity. But yet one of the fun things for me was going to the islands, and most of the patients, their favorite thing to take care of their blood pressure was bush tea. I was like, what is bush tea? Like,
that's my
literally, that's home. That goes back to going home. That's that home remedy, that homeopathic got some leaves, boil some tea leaves, and whether that works or not, that's what they know. And it's like, and it's all different formulations. But it was like, okay, this is something you learn from going there. What they use from their resources,
Right,
that
right.
they think is part of their system. So it's been some fun stuff.
So it sounds like not only is it you having an opportunity to educate people to be able to advocate for their own health, but you're also getting your own education on herbals and botanicals and how they may help and how they may support health. And, personally, I say that all I need is an N of one because I have, taken herbals, botanicals, what have you. And then I've tried to talk about it with a physician, and they're like, "No, but there are no randomized control. I don't need a randomized control clinical trial. I'm an N of one." And anyone who's watching this and is a pharmacist can definitely relate to what I mean when I say N of one. However, if it helped me, then I might just keep it in my repertoire. So I can understand them saying, "No, but this is what we've been using for years."
Right.
So I'm sure it's an education for both sides.
Absolutely. So yeah, I will make sure to inform our community as we go into 2023 when the next couple opportunities are there to join us.
Okay. All right. We'll definitely make sure to keep on the lookout for that. So tell me, what is it that drives you? Like, what drove you to decide to be a part of PharmaSis Magazine? Because we met, I think she was an intern at that, or maybe a resident with Dr. Lauren
Yeah.
introduced us. And then it probably, I know some months went by, and then we reconnected again. And so tell me, what made you decide to be a part of PharmaSis Magazine? Because as we said earlier, you just don't connect your name and your likeness with just anybody. So what was important to you about that?
I think your value, your mission, and your goal really stood out to me. And as Lauren was one of my mentees now, it's like a colleague for me.
Yeah.
So dynamic young pharmacist, and it was like we were starting, and that was when I was first starting my platform, which is we call Impact Minority Pharmacist Entrepreneur, which was a conference, which we're talk about later, which is like launching into more of a collaborative with the growth and that opportunity. And it was like, oh, where could we market that? Where could we build that out? And then when we didn't for that, I just kind of followed you, like we say, along the way, looked and was like, wow, I am loving all these women meeting, and it mirrored or it aligned with the same mission, like because so many that you have featured, their work and their world, everything is not just pharmacy.
Right.
It's life and a part of pharmacy. And many, as we say, have so many other opportunities or other things they've done with it. They've built their own business, or they have other side hustle, or they have branched out from pharmacy, but still kind of keep it in there. And I'm like, those are the same folks I want to feature. So this would be a perfect alignment. So as we move forward and looking, I was like, I want to talk to Jerika and just find out where and how would be an opportunity for me to join in and be a part of the team. I've joined some of the women groups and chats in the past, and it's like, yeah. So
I never envisioned a community that would form as a result of featuring women in the magazine. Number one, a network of my own personally, but then also just, I may be talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh, I saw so-and-so in your magazine." So I reached out to her and we connected and we're going to work on this together. And so it amazes me to see the connections, to see the collaborations, to see just even the recognition of, "Oh yeah, I know that person. Oh yeah, we got together and we met." And so so I keep the magazines pretty close at hand, and whether it doesn't even matter who I'm talking to, I am going to refer them to somebody in one of these magazines. I got 3 years worth of magazines. Somebody, I'm going to be like, "You might want to reach out to so and so," and then I flip the page to their page. I'm like, "This is what she looks like." So don't be surprised when you have people, whether they're students, depending on like if I talk to a student, they tell me something they're interested in, and I'm like, oh, you might want, whether it's a potential client who wants to talk to or see some of my former clients, because some of my former clients are featured in the magazine, to just a woman in pharmacy who may have an interest that I'm like, oh, I hope you get to know this person because I think you all would hit it off well and maybe could collaborate. So I love what comes about. So stay tuned, because when people just start calling you up or sending you messages that might seem random, they're not. It's because I send people all the time like, call this person, call that person. So
yeah, I'm here for it. And that helps with the, our conference, because I'm always needing platform speakers. So that beyond that, it's full of, amazing women, now some men that, it really just are. And I think, and again, and I'll share, like even with the platform that I chose as far as this minority pharmacist entrepreneur, was because a couple of years ago, similar to the time frame you were in, there was a period right before the pandemic where I'm hearing, because I'm working with the school and the students, that there's a saturation in our pharmacy profession. Like people are feeling a little bit of like, I'm reading in the post this lackluster about pharmacy as a profession and the opportunities. And I'm like, I chose a profession that I truly love. Right. And I love being a pharmacist, and I love all the options. And I'm just like, maybe they don't understand what options you have. We need to expose and so even students coming out or other pharmacists who are wanting to shift careers. Yeah, that's something that I think I'm known for. And it's a funny thing to me. People, when they see me, like, what are you doing now? Because usually there's nothing wrong with staying put, but I move within the industry from hospital, from academia to retail to managed care to industry, pharma industry. And like most people can't really maneuver that much. So they're like, how did you do it? Or even to say there's so many places to explore. You have transferable skill sets. You are valuable. And if you go to the Department of Labor, there are all these different positions that a pharmacist can do. So that's what I saw for the platform. And that's what I saw when you started highlighting in the magazine, what's available and what you can do.
Well, and in my conversations with students, one of the things that I recognize is oftentimes they'll be like, well, I don't know what I can do. And I do believe in looking around, seeing what's out there. Maybe there might be something of interest. But then I also believe that, even because you're right, I do see posts and people say things like, that are not very positive about the pharmacy profession. And granted, I believe any and every profession has its challenges. And I don't think pharmacy is any different. However, I am not one of those people, because I enjoy being a pharmacist too. And I am not one of those people to deter students from going into pharmacy. I'm not going to say anything disparaging. I can be honest. However, I believe it's an opportunity to create. When we were coming through school, our creativity wasn't necessarily nurtured as much as our analytical skills, and rightfully so. We had to learn how to be pharmacists. But now that we are pharmacists, I believe that to approach the profession with so many, like, what do I want to do first versus, well, what is there? There's as many people as I know and have featured or what have you. I am amazed at the varied, like everybody's doing something different. Yeah. And yet they're all pharmacists or all pharmacy. I say pharmacy professionals because we have technicians that watch and that participate, as well as with the magazine. So to me, the world of pharmacy and the skills that we have as pharmacy professionals just set us up for whatever else we want to do, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's more traditional roles like what we're used to seeing, or if it's something just so like crazy, off the wall, never heard of before. Those are the things that excite me, because we've been given the problem solving skills. We've been given the critical thinking skills. We've been given we've been taught how to use those things. Sometimes we just have to direct them and use them in different ways that we're not really used to, or that someone didn't give us an example of.
Exactly. You said it best. I mean, it's all of that, and I think that's again why, and being empowered to help others see
Mhm.
their roles or their profession differently. And yes, you're right. The challenges we
Mhm.
have, and even I guess I'm the half full person always,
Yes,
so
me
even as
too.
I work through
Mhm.
those challenges in our different environments, it's like, what
Mhm.
can we say that works, and what's your value purpose? And I'm a heart of a teacher, so
Right.
at the
Yes.
end of the
And
day.
I said this earlier this week on a live that I was on. I feel that when we get to the point that we are in our careers, and I really believe whether you've been practicing 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, you have something to give back, to teach. Generally, schools of pharmacy love having pharmacists come and talk. I think it adds spice and flavor to what they're trying to teach their students about
Mhm.
actually being in the real world, in the profession. And I think that the number of young women that I've had that just got on my calendar and said, let me tell you about this, what I'm facing in school, or this, what I'm facing in, my job. I feel that at a certain point, it becomes our duty to turn around, to mentor, to encourage, to share our journey. Because I think that if we don't, then we have a generation of pharmacy professionals, recent new grads,
Mhm.
younger in the profession, who are just kind of like, wow, I'm kind of blindsided. I never expected that this could happen when
Right.
you and I have had the experience and we can surely tell you about it. So I believe that it's part of what we're called to do, to even just share our experiences and our encouragement with those who are younger or less seasoned, if you will.
Yeah. And even I will add to the season ones because
Yeah.
we come from a generation that was very, very focused. I won't say stuck, but it kind of feels like, in a certain pattern. And, I'm learning from the young ones not to be so set in a pattern. As
Right.
they come along and teach us that, you know what, like you said, they're learning that creativity. They're learning how to, create from social media in so many different ways.
Mhm.
They're taught in a more creative environment. So,
Right.
they're helping me
Yes. Yes.
to
I
launch this,
um
all of
I
this.
I teach pharmacy technicians in a pharmacy tech training program, and the technicians keep me on my toes. Like this, of course, I'm teaching and they're learning from me, but I am also learning from them. And you're right; I say that they help keep us young, and so because my students, I feel like I sometimes when I'm saying things or when I'm talking to younger pharmacists. I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my parents. That's something my mother would say, or my father would say, or something that you're like, oh, I never thought I would use that.
Probably
I
yours.
find myself saying it, but I love the excitement that usually I hear in new grads or younger people to the profession, not necessarily younger by age, but by tenure to the profession. And I just hope that people will continue to know that it's whatever you want to make it, whether you want to go a traditional route, whether you want to create something that's totally out of the box to solve a problem. I think that when we look at healthcare today, there are lots of places that we can stand back with our arms crossed and go, well, that's wrong and that's not right. But I think it's awesome to look at the gaps and then be the person that says, I'm going to fill that gap. I'm going to solve that problem.
Yeah. And that's what we want. That's the mindset.
Mhm.
I'm looking and want to encourage others, and even in career coaching and development that I do, it's to really be the best you
Right,
and get the best for yourself,
right.
and because I'm like, hey, whatever your interest is, we can use it, and
Yes.
that's the thing. I'm like, there's so many areas. It doesn't matter if you have the interest, you can use it within your health, especially within pharmacy. Believe it or not.
Right. So let me ask you, Dr. Wallene, what is coming up next for you? Is it another missions trip? Is it what's coming up next? Do you have a conference? Like, tell the audience, because there may be people who get to see this on replay, and they're gonna want to know what's she doing next.
All of the above. So let's keep it busy. So as I mentioned, there's the annual health fair and
Okay.
medical missions, as we call it, that we do in the islands. And next year we're expanding it to a second island.
Okay.
So keep posted for those announcements coming out. For 2023, excited that Impact Conference that we launched during the pandemic. So we've been virtual.
Mhm.
So 2023 will be live and in person in October.
Okay.
So looking for the Minority Pharmacy Entrepreneur Conference from the collaborative to be live. So we'll also be posting that coming
Okay.
up. And
Mhm.
then absolutely, as you mentioned, I am available for those who are in line for career coaching, executive, trying to shift and figure that out for themselves as far as one-on-one clients or group clients type coaching. So all of that is what's coming up in 2023. So excited to be partnering with so many folks, including you and PharmaSis Magazine.
All right. Well, I can't wait. I will be on the lookout for the announcements, especially because you might see me down in the Caribbean on your next medical mission trip. I
Oh,
need to
we still
find
have,
out
we
the
work hard
details.
and have fun.
You said what now?
We work hard and we still have fun.
And I think that's a great way to travel, so you're traveling, but and with also with the purpose. So it sounds good. And then let me ask you, because I know when people see this, when people have an opportunity to hear all the things that you're involved with, when they're going to want to ask questions. How can I get involved? Don't worry about, uh, whatever it is that would keep you, because oftentimes, what I'm trying to say is sometimes people will see you and they'll be like, oh, well, I don't want to bother her, I know she's really busy. And I'm saying, like, don't worry about all the things that would come up to keep you. Go ahead and get in line, because Dr. Wallene is going to have a line of people who want to talk to her and find out more about the conference, more about how they can get involved. Maybe you'll be looking for sponsors and speakers and attendees, and other ways that people can help out and get involved. And then also, like you said, your trip coming up is going to cover 2 islands. So I know that people will want to ask questions. So, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn.
Okay.
So just connect with me, send me a message, and I will get back to you. I definitely will respond to everyone.
All right, so you heard it from her. The best way to reach Dr. Wallene is just to shoot her a message on LinkedIn, connect with her, follow her, connect with her on LinkedIn, and then send her a direct message and ask her how to get involved in the things that she has going on. Even just ask her, hey, can we get on the phone? And I'd love to meet you and have a conversation, because I know that having a conversation with her, you will walk away with tremendous value. So thank you, Dr. Wallene,
Thank
for
you.
coming on and talking with us today. I have enjoyed every time I get to talk to you. I'm like, oh, I love Dr. Wallene. So thank you for coming, spending time, letting us get to know you better. And again, I salute you for being a part of PharmaSis, yes, but also being a willing vessel to share your story, because it's going to bless anyone who reads it.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for you stepping out and taking the vision to do this. So I appreciate our journey together that's forever entwined.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes. All right. Well, I do want you to know that you can catch Dr. Wallene and her story in the upcoming fall issue of the magazine. So stay tuned, but definitely connect with her online, follow her, connect with her, ask her what she's got going on, because I'm sure you'll be interested in getting involved. So thank you. And again, I appreciate you being a part of the PharmaSis family, and we will talk to you. You have to come back so we can do like an update. Like, okay, so but
Absolutely. Anytime.
maybe before you go on the trip, or before the conference, or after, we'll definitely strategize on when's the best time to have you come back so we can continue talking and dig deeper into what's coming up as you get closer to those events.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Enjoy.
welcome.